do you do when someone is being deliberately cruel? Not just difficult, but calculated, unkind, toxic? I wish I could tell you that you'll always be able to walk away, but sometimes you're trapped by blood, by bills, by circumstance, and that version of you, the one stuck in that room, trying not to scream, deserves better than just being told to cut them off. So this isn't a video about escape. It's about endurance, but not the kind that breaks you, the kind that builds you. Epictetus knew this kind of pain. He was born a slave, abused by someone who had power over him, and yet he said this: "No man is free who has not learned to endure." Not endure like a martyr, but endure with cleverness, with grace, with a kind of emotional judo that flips the damage without absorbing it. So, in this episode, I'm not giving you commands. I'm handing you 16 small lanterns, 16 clever tools from Stoic wisdom for when you can't run, but you refuse to become like them. Kicking things off here with lantern number 1, mistaking your fixation for compassion. I'm coming in hot with this one because I needed to hear it pretty badly once upon a time. I thought saving women was what men were supposed to do, and I really believed it would feel good if I saved her from not feeling so bad. I thought I was Super Mario, and I thought my job was to rescue Princess Peach from a temperamentally overweight turtle tyrant. I thought that was prophecy, the hero's journey, the way, the truth, and the life of how I thought I could find something meaningful that's not completely useless. But this isn't a video game, and you can't fix them, because life doesn't usually work like that. Not because you didn't love hard enough, not because you didn't try, but because it was never yours to fix in the first place. Some people live in their own storms, and when you step too close, they hand you the lightning like it's love. But love isn't supposed to electrocute your spirit. Staring at unread texts, rehearsing what to say, crying quietly in bed, you told yourself, maybe if I just loved them better. Maybe if I stayed calm while they raged. Maybe if I shrunk myself enough, they'd soften. But the truth is, some people are unwilling or unable to meet you in the light, and that's not your fault. Hope is sacred, but don't let it dress up as delusion. You can hope someone changes, but you have to live as if they won't. That's how you keep your heart intact. It's not cruel to let go. It's not selfish to protect your peace. And it's not failure to walk away. You're not here to fix anyone. You're here to remember who you are. If this made something inside you unclench, I'm glad you're here. Let's keep walking. Which brings us over to lantern number 2. It's not personal. It's just projection, and you're the nearest wall. This one's for the version of me who used to take everything personally. Someone throws shade, and you twist into knots. Your body floods with heat and doubt. And just like that, they're living in your nervous system, rent-free. When you react to someone's poison, you're drinking it, digesting it, dying from it. So don't give your peace away like that. But you know who saw through that. Marcus Aurelius, he literally started his mornings saying to himself, "Today I shall meet the petty, the jealous, and the self-absorbed. None of that has power over me unless I give it permission to do so." And within that framework, most attacks ended up just being ego games dressed up in guilt trips, aka manipulation disguised as honesty. It's not about you. It's their unhealed pain wearing your name tag. You can't control their chaos, but you can choose not to absorb it. And honestly, stillness is a power move. It's not avoidance. So sit in your stillness, let the drama run past you like a river. Your peace is not a weakness. It's your strength dressed in silence. You're not here to manage other people's chaos. You're here to master your own peace. As we move on to lantern number 3, choosing your peace over proving your point. There was a time I thought I had to respond to everything, every jab, every sideways comment, every misunderstanding, as if my worth depended on defending it. But here's the truth, I wish I'd known sooner. Not every insult deserves your energy, and not every battle is worth your breath. Some people don't want a conversation. They want combustion. They want to pull you into the chaos. They haven't learned how to soothe in themselves. Let them speak. Let them misunderstand you if they must. Your soul wasn't designed to be on trial every time someone else feels threatened by your peace. Dale Carnegie once said, "A man with a tortured and warped personality will always find something to justify his conduct. Let him have his say. Trying to change a mind that's married to its own pain, that's a spiritual energy leak. And you don't owe your light to every dark room. So protect your power. You were born to create, not constantly explain. Redirect your fire toward building beauty, not burning down misunderstandings. Your presence is your protection, and your silence, sometimes, is your loudest act of self-respect. So, if you've been drained by defending yourself lately, I get it. I really do. But maybe the real flex isn't being right. It's being free. Which brings us over to lantern number 4. Knowing when to leave is a superpower and a soft goodbye to your old self. Knowing when to walk away. This one's for the version of me who stayed too long. Not because I didn't know the truth, but because I didn't feel ready to live it. There comes a point in every draining relationship, whether it's with someone else or with the story you're telling yourself, where the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Not in anger, not in punishment, but because your nervous system has been whispering, enough. And yeah, walking away might feel like guilt at first, like shame, like failure. But listen, staying in a place that keeps shrinking you, that's not loyalty. That's slow motion, self-abandonment. You don't need to carry someone else's healing on your back if they haven't even picked up the shovel. You can't build intimacy with someone who's committed to avoiding their own reflection. You can love them, you can wish them well, but you cannot change what they refuse to face. And that's not your job. Your job is to come home to yourself. Seneca said, "We can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails, and that includes how we relate to others." Sometimes you can't fully walk away, but you can shift how much of your energy you give. You can lower the volume of their voice in your life. You can raise the standard for how you're willing to be treated. So if this feels like a quiet permission slip, let it be. If you've been waiting for a sign to stop shrinking for someone else's comfort, this might be it. It's okay to walk away before they say sorry. It's okay to choose peace over potential. It's okay to let go and let life meet you where you are, not where you're stuck. Which brings us over to lantern number 5. Their chaos is not your cue. If someone's trying to pull you into their chaos right now, into that swirl of guilt, blame, twisted truth, you don't have to go with them. I know it feels like you need to defend yourself, to prove your side, to show the receipts, but that's the trap. Some people don't want understanding. They want control. And the more you respond, the deeper they sink their hooks. And I know how much it hurts. Being misunderstood, being lied about. But here's the thing, no one told me when I needed it most. Silence is a boundary, too. True strength isn't in fighting back. It's in knowing when to stop giving your energy to people who aren't capable of meeting you in honesty. Let them trip on their own stories. Let time do what time always does. Reveal everything. You don't need to explain your heart to someone who's already decided not to listen. The ones who see you clearly don't need the defense. The ones who demand it won't believe it anyway. So if this is where you are, standing at the edge of a storm someone else created, just know, you're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to stop arguing. You're allowed to protect your peace. Which brings us over to lantern number 6. Less narration, more navigation, focusing on the solution and not the story. If you're dealing with someone toxic right now, someone who just doesn't get it, let me tell you something I wish someone had told me back then. Stop trying to make them see what they're doing wrong. That's not where your healing lives. I know it feels impossible not to point out the hypocrisy. You want them to finally admit it. To say, you're right, I was wrong. But waiting for that moment, waiting for them to change so you can feel peace. That's a trap dressed up as justice. Here's what changed everything for me. I stopped waiting for them to evolve and started asking, what can I do differently right now? Sometimes that meant shifting my tone. Sometimes it meant walking away. And sometimes it meant grieving the version of the relationship I hoped would exist. Let's be real, none of that was easy. But the moment I stopped blaming and started listening to myself, I felt my power come back. Not because they changed, but because I did. So if you're stuck on the merry-go-round of they should have known better, I get it. I've been there. But try this instead. Ask yourself what's still in your hands. Even if it's just your breath, even if it's just your exit. George Lucas once said, to always remember that our focus ultimately determines our reality. And it's wild how simply narrowing the focus can change the entire frame. You're not behind. You're just becoming. Which brings us over to lantern number 7. You don't win by arguing. You win by not needing to. I remember times where I used to rehearse arguments in my head, like it was going to change something, like if I just said it the right way, they'd finally get it. But here's the thing. Some people aren't listening to understand. They're listening to stay superior. And when someone's married to being right, truth isn't even invited to the conversation. So I stopped defending myself. Not because I didn't have a story worth telling, but because I didn't need their permission to tell it anymore. I could speak it to the mirror, to the moon, to the version of me that was still bleeding out for closure, and that was enough. See, if you've got the kind of heart that wants real intimacy, real connection, you'll keep cracking yourself open, trying to meet people halfway. But you can't meet someone in the middle when they've never left the safety of their own ego. Let them be right. Seriously. Let them win the argument you're not in anymore. Meanwhile, you walk away with your peace, with your truth, with your power intact. If this hits something tender in you, just know I've been there too. And if you're learning to stop over-explaining and start reclaiming, you're already healing. Which brings us over to lantern number 8. Don't try to reason with them. If I could go back and whisper one thing to my younger self, it might be this. Don't try and reason with them. Because it's like trying to teach algebra to a volcano. I used to think, if I just found the right words, calm enough, kind enough, clever enough, I could finally get through to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. But here's the truth. I wish I had known sooner. You cannot logic someone out of a story they are emotionally invested in, especially if the story is that they must win and you must shrink. Arguing with a toxic person doesn't get you justice. It gets you tangled, because it's not about truth for them, it's about power. And if they can pull you into a debate, they've already succeeded, because now you're dancing to their rhythm instead of walking your own. So protect your peace, withdraw your energy. You don't have to win the conversation to win your life back. If this truth stings a little, that's okay. Let it sting. Let it teach you how to stop handing out front row seats in your life to people who only came to boo. As lantern number 9 transitions into the theme of don't feed the trolls, leading me to a very important question that all of us should ask ourselves one day, which is, Do you know what the difference between a garbanzo bean and a chickpea is? Dudes wouldn't pay $100 to let a garbanzo bean on their face. It's definitely not the classiest look in the world. But you know what? That's okay. Life moves on. Because the point is, don't feed the trolls. You know that feeling. When someone just lives to stir the pot, pokes at your soft spots, and waits for you to flinch. They're not misunderstanding you. They're harvesting your energy. And baby, that ain't intimacy. That's bait. Jordan Peterson once said, "Do not try to rescue someone who does not want to be rescued. And be very careful and cautious about rescuing someone who actually does. Because pain isn't always a cry for help. Sometimes it's a trap. You could build an emotional lifeboat from scratch, patch it with hope, prayer, and nervous laughter, and they'd still try to poke holes in it from the inside. So hey, let's not wait around for the Titanic to introduce itself to the iceberg. You've already seen the trajectory. The moment you stop reacting to chaos is the moment you reclaim your power. That silence, that boundary, that's not avoidance. That's energetic sobriety. You're not here to be a rescue raft. You're here to be a lighthouse. If someone only knows how to connect by pushing your buttons, they're not looking for a relationship. They're looking for control. Let them look elsewhere. You've got better things to build. More honest mirrors to stand in front of. More loving storms to ride. If this helped you feel clearer about who gets your energy, I'm glad. Walk with me a little further, because it's time to free yourself even more. As we swing into the double digits here with lantern number 10, setting boundaries. Since peace isn't passive, it's chosen. If you're watching this, I'm guessing you're tired. Tired of giving people more of you than they've earned. Tired of that little gut drop that happens. The one that happens when someone crosses a line and you stay quiet. Again, I know that version of you. The one that keeps handing out grace, like coupons that never get redeemed. The one who knows it's too much but says nothing. Because what if they think I'm mean? Or worse, what if they leave? But listen, you don't owe your peace to people who profit off your discomfort. Not anymore. Boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges with gates. And baby, you get to hold the key. It took me years to realize this. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about choosing what energy gets close to your heart. You can still love someone and not let them gossip in your ear. You can still care and never loan them money again. You can still pray for them and block their number. Epictetus said, "Protect your inner citadel. That's your sacred, sovereign space inside. Your energy, your self-respect, your sense of I matter." Which leads us straight into lantern number 11. Setting the damn boundary, because my aura has a bouncer now. Every time you let someone trample your no, you chip away at your own throne. And the thing is, you were born royalty. You're not here to beg for crumbs at a table you could build yourself. And let's be real, people will test you. They'll nudge past the line just to see if you'll flinch. Oh, it was just a joke. Oh, you're being dramatic. Nah, you're being clear. So here's the lantern I want to hand you today. Guard your trust. Speak it like a currency. And if someone crosses the line, you don't have to rage. You don't have to explain. You don't have to launch into a 3-slide Google Doc. Just remember who you are, and don't hand your crown to anyone who can't carry it with care. If this helped you feel a little more solid in your skin, a little more sovereign in your silence, I'm glad you're not too much for wanting peace. You're just finally choosing it. Keep walking with me. I know you're tired of trying to be someone you think people will like. You've twisted yourself into shapes so many times. You don't even recognize your own edges anymore. You just wanted peace. But let me tell you something that took me too long to learn. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to be real. Even if you do everything right, someone will still be disappointed. That's not your failure. That's just proof you're not a shapeshifter, sent to perform emotional CPR. I used to apologize just for existing in someone's bad mood, but not anymore. Now, if I mess up, I say sorry with love, but I don't make it a crime scene. You're allowed to take up space, even if it ruffles someone's feathers. True strength isn't in people-pleasing, it's in standing tall in your center, and letting others have their reactions without shrinking yourself. And hey, some people won't like your boundaries. That's okay. Let them not like it. Your peace is worth more than someone else's approval rating. So if no one told you today, you're not too much, you're not selfish, you're just learning how to love yourself out loud. And if that bothers people, maybe they were only ever clapping for the mask. If this helped you exhale a little, keep walking with me. We're unlearning together. Which leads us straight into lantern number 12. Practicing forgiveness. It's not for them, it's for you. So you can stop plotting their downfall at 3 a.m. Practicing forgiveness. Not the easy kind where someone says sorry and you both hug it out. Alright? I'm talking about the kind you practice alone, when the other person doesn't apologize, when the wound is still pulsing, when every part of you wants to hold on to the fire, because letting go feels like letting them off the hook. I know that version of you, the one who's trying to heal, but still scanning the horizon for justice, the one who tells themselves, I'm not angry, I just don't forget. But truthfully, you're tired. Tired of holding that weight like armor? Here's what I wish someone had told me back then. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's a jailbreak for you, because every time you grip that bitterness, you're chaining yourself to the same pain you're trying so hard to escape. You don't have to condone what happened. You're not saying it was okay. You're saying this doesn't get to define my energy anymore. Intimacy begins within. And maybe, just maybe, the first person you need to forgive is yourself. For the version of you that stayed too long, trusted too much, or didn't walk away when they should have. They weren't weak. They were just looking for love, the only way they knew how. So be gentle with them. Hold them, let them breathe. Because, let's be honest, resentment is like drinking expired almond milk. You think it's gonna help you feel better, but really, it just makes your stomach turn. If this lands, maybe today, just take one breath, deeper than usual. Loosen your grip, let a little light in. You're not doing this to forget, you're doing it to remember who you are, without all that weight. Which brings us over to lantern number 13. Prioritizing self-care as the best kind of revenge. If you're dealing with someone who drains your soul like it's a sport, come sit closer for a second, as this one's for the version of me who didn't know how to put themselves first, without feeling guilty, because here's the truth, I wish someone told me sooner. When you're around toxic energy all the time, you start accidentally believing that your own mind is the enemy too. But you're in a dialogue. That's your emotional immune system. If your thoughts keep echoing the voices of people who never learn to love themselves, of course you're tired. It's not you. That's their frequency. Lingering in your field. Dishonesty starts within. But so does transparency. So start with this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are worthy, even if you don't believe it yet. So, start acting like it anyway. Take sacred space, even if it's just a walk, even if it's just a quiet bath. Not to escape, but to equip. Let your nervous system catch its breath, and let your inner clarity soften the static. And please, don't try to solo mission your healing. We weren't built for isolation. So, find the ones who hold your heart gently, who see your glow, even when all you feel is fog. And if this helped you remember how to care for yourself again, let's keep going, one soft moment at a time, which leads us into lantern number 14, choosing your circle like your soul depends on it. I wish someone had told me this sooner. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe, and not everyone who walks with you is meant to stay. You don't owe your energy to people who drain your soul. Just because you've got history, there was a time I kept people around. Just because I hated being alone. But loneliness isn't solved by company that makes you feel hollow. It's solved by connection that makes you feel seen. Toxic doesn't always show up as loud chaos. Sometimes, it's the subtle disloyalty. The conversations where your name leaves the room before you do. Sometimes, it's just the ache in your chest after hanging out with them. You're allowed to outgrow people who no longer reflect your peace. You're allowed to protect your heart like it's sacred. Because it is. Surrounding yourself intentionally isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. It's about choosing relationships that help you grow. People who love your weird, who don't flinch at your silence, who celebrate your healing like it's theirs too. So, don't just walk away from toxic people. Walk toward the ones who bring clarity, loyalty, and calm. If this reminded you of what you deserve, I'm glad. Keep curating your inner circle like your soul depends on it, because sometimes it does. Which brings us over to lantern number 15. Remembering your purpose by rediscovering what makes you spark. You don't have to fix every fire someone else sets, and you don't have to react every time someone throws a stone in your direction. I know, it feels like you should. Like if you don't defend yourself, you'll be misunderstood. Or worse, walked over. But here's the thing. Some people want you to lose your center. They feed on reaction, on chaos, on pulling you out of your peace. The more you forget your light. I used to think silence was weakness, and that not clapping back made me small. But now I see. There's deep strength in restraint, in choosing clarity over conflict, intimacy over insecurity, purpose over pettiness. You weren't born to react to every insult. You were born to remember who you are and stay aligned with what really matters. Purpose doesn't yell back. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just keeps going. So next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, pause, breathe, and remember, they're just noise. You're the melody, and your presence. That's the whole song. Where, last but not least, we close things out here with lantern number 16. You have the right to peace, love, and joy, as well as everything in between. There's something you might not have heard enough growing up, and I want to make sure you hear it now, loud and clear. You have the right to joy. You have the right to love. And you have the right to peace, not when everyone around you is happy, not after you've earned it, and not when the toxic people in your life finally change. Now, just because you're alive. I know it's hard when you're around people who thrive on chaos, who twist your words, pull you into their storm, and make you feel like you're the problem. But here's the truth I wish someone had told me. Just because someone is hurting doesn't mean they're allowed to hurt you. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to protect your peace. And you're allowed to choose relationships that feel like a sanctuary, not survival. Why? Because you don't need anyone's permission to be happy. You don't need to justify your boundaries to anyone. And you don't need to keep sacrificing your joy in order to earn someone else's love. So, let your joy be sacred. Let your peace be non-negotiable, and let your life be built on the quiet, steady truth that you are already enough. Therefore, if you stop comparing and stop explaining, you can finally start choosing yourself. Big ups to you, because you're not selfish for wanting better. You're wise for remembering what you deserve. With all that being said, These 16 lanterns can provide us with some lights at the end of some dark and toxic tunnels at the end of the day. And if this clip helped you feel seen in any way, shape or form, I'm glad we crossed paths. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more content. And until next time, thanks again for watching. Stay up, stay blessed, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.